So we have actually covered everything, and what we are going to do is I'm going to give an outline for our next test, which will be on Thursday. Okay, excuse me. Okay, it will be on Thursday, and all the time between now and then will be used for review, but as always, I want to give you an outline so you know what to prepare for. And then once, after I give you the outline, we will give examples of each of these types of problems. So just bear with me after I make the initial list. Okay. The first thing that you're going to have to know how to do is base 10 multiplication. Okay. You are going to need to determine greater than, less than, or equal to with, I'll explain, I promise, okay, with the decimal multiplication. We will need to be able to multiply decimals. And then lastly, and as always, we will have word problems. Okay. So I'll give you guys about another minute to write all of these down, and then I promise we will do examples of all of these. Yes. Actually, not this time because we're doing something else. Well, we will do review activities. You'll see. I just want to give everyone a chance to write this down. When you are done, put your pencil down. That way I know that you're done. So I will label the practice questions as they would be labeled over here. Example number 1 would be 4 and 27 hundredths times 10 to the third power. Okay, so this is an example of one of these types of problems. And I'm trying to give you one of the more complicated possibilities here, so you see as challenging as it could be. Okay? It will not always have an exponential notation here. Sometimes it will be 10, 100, or 1,000. But here I have it written in exponential notation, and there's something else we're going to have to do as well. But does anyone remember this type of problem and want to explain the trick for how to solve this type of problem? Julia?
This is for the 10. Since it has a number 3 above, you would have 3 zeros there.
Okay, so exactly right. It's the same thing as 1,000.
And then you would move the digit. I mean, you would move the decimal, the amount of zeros that are.
To which direction? Left or right?
Right.
Exactly right. So we want to move it now 3 places to the right. So we'd go 1, 2, 3, but there's an issue. There's nothing there. And Julia, do you remember what goes there?
A 0.
A 0, correct. So now the decimal would be there. So our final answer, what would our final answer look like?
427,000.
Close. Let's try again.
4,200.
Awesome. Correct. Okay. So on this particular section, you will not get full credit if I see you doing 4.27 times 1,000. I actually want to see you move in the decimal because this is honestly a trick that will save you a lot of time. when we were practicing with the bingo last week, I saw not everyone, but a few people actually multiplying 1,000 by 4 and 2700ths, and I do not want to see this. There will be a section that is labeled base 10 multiplication, and I actually want to see you using this trick because it saves you a lot of time and it's important you understand how to do it. There are lots of applications of this in the real world. It will save you a lot of time. Okay? So that is example number 1. An example of number 2. And I want to give you 3 examples for this because there are really 3 different possibilities that you can see. So here we have 3 different problems, and in the middle of these problems is a big circle, and what that really is, that is a placeholder. We have to figure out which sign goes in these spaces. And your options are greater than, less than, and equal to. And this test in particular, whether or not you understand what happens when you multiply by a decimal, when you multiply by a number that's greater than 1, and when you multiply something by 1. Okay? So I just want to start with the top. If we take 5 and 3/10 and we multiply it by 7/10, all I want to know is what will happen to that number. Yeah, Charlotte.
It will get smaller.
It will get smaller. Why will it get? You're right. Why? That's okay. If I'm putting you on the spot, that's all right. Does anyone know why, Gigi?
Because it doesn't have a whole number in front of it. So since it's just a decimal, it's gonna get smaller because it's like, I don't know, like the fraction or whatever.
Yeah, you're like taking a part of something.
Yeah.
It's like you're not taking 1 of something. You're taking a part of something. So it's less than 1 of something. So we know that it's going to be smaller. So where should the alligator face, Charlotte, then? Okay, exactly right. Okay, it should be, so 5 and 3/10 times 7/10 is less than 5 and 3/10. Okay? If we're looking at this second part here, what do we think would happen in this particular case? Looking for maybe a different hand that I haven't seen. We're multiplying 5 and 3/10 by 2 and 1/10. Yeah, no?
It will get bigger.
It'll get bigger, okay? It'll get bigger because it is greater than 1. So we're taking 2 and change of 5.3, which means it's going to get bigger. So where should it face? Where should the greater than less than face? It should face towards the left. Awesome. Okay? And lastly, we have 5 and 3/10 we're multiplying by 1. Sophia, what happens? It'll be equal, okay? It doesn't matter if you're dealing with decimals, fractions, whatever. If you multiply anything by 1, it always stays itself. Okay? So that holds true always. It's the identity property we worked on earlier this year, but it always remains true. Okay? So this section, once you know what you're looking for, it's not too challenging. Just kind of take stock on what's on each side that's similar, and then look for what you're multiplying it by. Okay? All right, so that was an example of number 2. And I now want to move on to an example of number 3. And the highest I'm going to go will be 3 digits by 2 digits. So I'm just going to give you an example of one of those. Okay, 3 and 2100ths times 1 and 4/10. So I'd like you guys each to try that right now. We'll go over it after as a group, and then we'll move on to the next one. So we'll go over this because I see a lot of us doing the right thing, but maybe one minor mistake. And again, we are coming back from break, so I want to make sure we are good. Okay. So if you look at this, which of the factors should go on top in the algorithm? Which should go on top, Gigi?
3 and 2100.
Awesome. We have 3 and 2100ths, and then this should go on the bottom. If the decimals are lined up, does that matter? No, it does not matter. What operations does that matter for? We want to line up the decimal whenever we're doing what? Can I remember that? So we don't do it when we multiply. What operation do we want to line up the decimal? We did it earlier this year. Yeah, Isaac? Yeah? When you add and subtract, we line it up. When you multiply, we do not. Okay, so just one thing I want to start to keep track of, and we will do a more comprehensive review once we finish division. Okay, so we're at this point now. Now, what do we want to do before we do any multiplying? What is something that we do on the side before we do any multiplying at all, Desi? Awesome. So in this number, how many digits are after the decimal? 2. 2, great. And this one?
1.
Okay. And what do we do with these? We get?
3.
Okay. We'll deal with that later. Now, who would like to walk me through the actual multiplication steps? Sophia?
We do 4 times 1, which is 4.
Great.
We do 4 times 2, which is 8.
Awesome.
4 times 2 is 12. We don't have to carry anything because we don't have to.
Perfect.
And then you put a 0. And we do 1 times 4, which is 1. 1 times 2, which is 2. And 1 times 3, which is 3.
Okay. And now we are multiplying, so we just add normally. And we get?
I got 4. 4 times 49, 4, but I didn't put the column.
Okay, so 4, 9, 4, and 4. And the last step, okay, so the last step, what do we have to do with that? There's 3 digits out of the decimal. Good.
So you just count 1, 2.
Awesome. So at the end, we get 4 and 494 decimals. Okay. The key is, one way of remembering it, we always just want to start all the way at the right, and we go this direction. If there are 3 places after the decimal up top, there should be 3 places after the decimal in our answer. Okay. Does that start ringing bells? And Jack, I know you were gone with this. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's just like when you multiply whole numbers, and you just count for both of them. Okay. And word problems, we are actually going to do some practice that is on worksheets in a second. But it does pertain to multiplying decimals. Do all of these make sense? Do all these sort of ring bells? Okay. So we will continue to practice this as the week goes on, but I do want to focus on some word problems today because these are things that you may not be used to. What I also want to encourage with these, I'd like to encourage you to work with your table on this because there are some tricky parts, and I think that if you're working together, you'll be able to catch some of those tricky parts. These are word problems. There are only 3 of them, but it all sort of dealing with the same problem. So I want to give you guys about 10 minutes to work on this with your table, and then we will go from there. If you would like to pull up a chair at any table, you can do that so that you do it by yourself too. Okay? Yes, you may.